What's up, YouTube? It's basically Bensky. In my last video of the absolute beginner's tutorial for 3D printing, we talked about that we're going to get into slicing software, the software that will allow you to be able to make your 3D print files come to life through your 3D printer. So we're going to jump into that. And if you guys are really interested in this series, make sure you press that bell icon, make sure you're subscribed, and give this video a like. And remember to comment anything that you guys need to know for 3D printing in the future so that we can make sure we focus on it, because this is going to be for you guys. I don't want to skip over anything. I know, again, this might be mundane for people who've been 3D printing for a long time, but this is going to be a refresher course for some of those people, and this is going to be the first course for all of the people who need to learn something. So let's dive into it. So like I said, what we're going to do first is we're going to get into the slicer. So we talked about your printer more than likely is going to come with its own slicer software. With the Crealities, it's going to come with Creality Print or sometimes Cura. Elegoo is definitely going to come with Cura. You're going to get Bamboo Studio with Bamboo printers. That one is great. We won't get into Bamboo Studio because that one is just a really good slicer. And the things that I'm going to walk you through with this slicer, which is called Orca, is going to apply to Bamboo. There's going to be a little things here and there, but we are going to make a video that's going to be longer. That's going to be like the advanced uses of slicing softwares. And that's going to be a multi-part series because I don't want to make a 2-hour video, and you could easily make a slicing video well over 2 hours. This one's probably already going to be 20 to 30 minutes. But this is just going to be the slicer that I use, why I use it, and how to get files to put into the slicer. So let's go ahead and get into the screen, and then we're going to show you how we do that. So first things first, we're going to come here and we're going to get your browser open, and we're going to go to Google, and we're going to type in Orca Slicer. As you can see, I already have it here. This is Orca Slicer. For anybody who's not familiar, I wasn't familiar before I got into 3D printing at all, or really anything like that. I was not familiar with computers. I wasn't familiar with stuff that was going on with the web. I never got into it because I really just needed Google and ChatGPT, to be honest with you. And so I didn't know how legitimate softwares were found. Every software had its own .com or .info or whatever it was. But then I found out GitHub existed. And I know there's going to be a million people that are probably going to be typing about GitHub, all this other stuff. Why didn't I know? Again, I just didn't. But this is where you're going to find Orca Slicer. And we're going to just go here to Orca Slicer. We're going to click the first one. Now, I like to double check to make sure I'm always in the right place. So I just click Orca Slicer again here at the top of the corner. And you're going to get all of this information here, but we're going to just scroll down. One of the cool things about Orca Slicer is it gives you this little welcome page. There's a place where you can join the Discord. The Discord is awesome. Really great people there. A lot of people who can help you answer questions. But there's also this really cool, important alert thing. This is the security thing. This is where it talks about orcaslicer.net or .info or not legitimate websites. So just make sure you're going through the GitHub and you're finding it. There's a wiki, there's features, and then we get down to the download section. Now there's two different downloads. There's the stable release, and then there's the nightly builds. The stable release is the version that they put out that they know works, everything's good to go, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then the nightly builds are like the beta testing, and this is where like a lot of those tests are going to happen. It's going to be a version of it that's a little bit ahead, but again, it might not work 100%. It might work just fine. I wouldn't get into it if you're new, but just they do offer both of them. So we're going to click latest release stable build. And as of right now, December 30th, 2024, this was released on October 28th, version 2.2.0. I do know the nightly build is 2.3.0. That's only because I have it. You'll see that here in a second. Again, this talks about the security alert because it's very important to them. This talks about all the different changes that have happened through the different version changes. But since you haven't gotten into it, don't worry about that. We'll just scroll down and we'll get into these are the download files. You just need to know what operating system you're using. So if you're using Windows, you know it'd be one of these Windows installers. If you're using a Mac, it's going to be one of these. And if you have a Linux operating system, it's going to be one of these two. I'm a Mac guy. I do the ARM64, so we just click that, and it goes up to our download. Once it's done downloading, we can open it. All you have to do at that point is just follow your downloading procedure when it comes to your specific operating system. Again, I'm familiar with Mac. I'm not going to go through all of it just to show all the nitty-gritty stuff. We're just going to assume you've got it downloaded. We've got everything good. Again, if you need help, get in that Discord, ask for help. But now we've got everything downloaded. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of this. I don't know why I exit that. We'll do that for later. Anyways, I'll close Orca, disregard that. Okay, so we're going to come over here to Orca Slicer. We're going to click it. And again, I have 2.3.0 dev, which stands for development. So that's what that is. This is what it'll look like. Now, yours will not look the same at all. It'll be, actually, I can show you. This is, yeah, I don't need this. This will look like this. You won't even have a login thing. Don't worry about it. You don't need to log in. You could just start with create new project. Now, for your first time, when you're creating a new project, you will be prompted with this screen right here, which is the printer selection screen. This is where you're going to find your printer that you just got. So if you have a Creality, you can type in Creality. Here's all the different Creality machines that they are. They even have the K2 Plus, which is great. If you have a Bamboo, they even have, Bamboo. They have all the Bamboo machines. Let's say you have a Neptune 4 Max. Here's all the Elegoo Neptune 3 Max, 4 Max right here. And as you can see, they all have different nozzle types, and that's just going to be something we'll get into later, but all of the machines are going to come with a standard 0.4 nozzle, as far as I know. If that's wrong, leave it in the comments below. Sorry if that's wrong. So yeah, on your printer, you'll be able to select it, and then you'll be able to press confirm. Now, what's really cool though, is you can select more than one printer. So if you have more than one printer, or you have gotten more than one printer, you can look through here, make sure it's in here, and click all the ones that apply, and then you press confirm. Once you do that, you have this drop down, and all of the presets that you just had are all right here. And so this takes all the guesswork out of creating a profile for your parameters and all this other stuff that is just like stuff you don't need to worry about. So we're going to use the Creality K1C for an example at a 0.4 nozzle. So we're good here. Something that won't be clicked is this button right here. Well, it could be. I actually don't know. There's been so many updates I can't remember, and I just do it automatically. But this is an important button to press even as a beginner, because the default might not be the default that comes with the printer. So you go into the edit button here. This screen will pop up. You're going to make sure that support multi-bed types is clicked, checked on. You're going to exit this out. Typically, it'll ask you to prompt to save it. That's where you can name your printer. You do not have to do that. What's great is even if you have more than one K1C, more than one X1 Carbon, more than one Bamboo A1 combo like I do, I have a ton of them, they just need one profile, and then you can send it to different printers no matter what, and it's super easy. Don't worry about naming them. However, obviously I have named a bunch of printers, as you can see right here. So that's just what it is. Anyways, K1C. And now we have the different bed plates. We're going to select textured PEI plate, because that should be the plate that you get. That's most plates that you get. If not, look at the manuals, look at the plate itself. It should usually have it on the plate, what kind of plate it is. Make sure you have the correct one. Your settings should look like this. There is a button right here for an advanced. Again, we'll get into all of this when we move on, but let's just stick with this right now. So we have 5 main drop downs. We have your quality, your strength, your support, multi-material, and others. So first things first, this drop down right here, this is standard 0.20 millimeter. That is your layer height. And if you remember from the first video, we talked about how the 3D printers print on each layer height. The higher the number, the bigger that layer height is, the lower the quality things are going to be. But sometimes that's good for prototyping. It's good for a lot of different applications. But the standard is with a 0.4 millimeter nozzle printing at a 0.2 layer height. That is the standard. That is what everybody does. It works great. For the most part, I usually don't even change that. When I do things like this is an insert for my mini dice tower that I make. This is definitely at 0.2. There's no sense in making that smaller. But when I do something like this and I want a little bit more detail, I go ahead and do this at a 0.18 layer height. But for all intents and purposes, don't worry about changing that. But there's a drop down for presets. You can change it right here manually. So if I wanted to do 0.18, I could type it in here, press enter, and it would do that. But I'm just going to revert that, so we're not going to worry about this. But that's where your layer height is. This is also, again, where the presets are. So we're going to go into strength. I'll get into this a lot later, but there are two main factors that indicate how strong something you print is going to be. It's going to be your wall loops, which is the amount of layers of a wall that exist between the wall and then when the infill starts. So if you imagine a circle, it's how many times it goes around the circle to make a wall thick enough before it fills everything else on the inside. That's going to be one contributing factor to your strength of an object. The other thing is going to be down here is the infill density and the type. These first four don't ever touch. Just don't put those on there. If you see them on there, get them off, especially as a beginner. This could be where a lot of things go wrong very quickly. So just don't worry about those. I highly suggest either going with gyroid, honeycomb, or adaptive cubic. These three are the first three that I would stick with. So we're going to just change this already before we even get into it. Support. This is what you will use in order to support your project. Supports are used when you have an object that's not completely flat and has kind of where the printer wouldn't be able to print it successfully without it either dropping or failing or falling completely off. So it creates another structure that shoots up and then attaches itself to the project to make sure that it keeps everything stable. Hopefully I've done good on my editing and you're getting some B-roll of that right now, but if not, sorry, and you're just gonna have to go with the imagination aspect of that. But this is where you would enable those supports. You would turn them on. You're able to select the different kinds and all of that jazz. Again, we'll get more into this into the advanced parts of slicing. We might even have just a whole video on supports. But in the meantime, if you really need an answer now, go to Uncle Jesse and Frankly Built. They both have really good videos. I'll try to link them below if I remember about support settings. They are phenomenal. So go look at their videos. Can't recommend them enough. Multi-material we won't need to worry about with a K1C. That's something we can worry about if we have an A1 combo or a K2+. And then others, this is the skirt loop. This is something that lays out a parameter around the objects that you're printing to kind of give you an idea of making sure everything's adhered well, but also to show where the like travel of the nozzle is going to be in a space, because it might not be there on the base. Like you have something that starts small on the base and then flares up. That skirt will be the entire perimeter if you were looking down or I guess up at the project. And then a brim type, what a brim is a brim is a way that an object can be placed on the bed plate and make sure it's a little bit more secure. What it does is put extra material around the outside of the object to make sure it kind of stable. I do use that when I print these objects on the bed slinger ones where the bed's moving back and forth, because sometimes these can get a little unstable, and if the nozzle hits it just right, it'll knock them off. But if I have a brim on there, it keeps it secure. I like to keep it on auto when I'm starting out because I don't know how to print and I don't know what I'm doing. So there's the basic overviews of that. Let's talk about the functionality of the slicer. So as you can see, I'm moving this bed plate around in a bunch of different directions, and this is done by holding down the left click button on your mouse and just rotating it in whatever fashion you feel like it. If we click the right button, we're able to move the bed plate independently. It doesn't rotate no matter what we do. And the scroll wheel obviously will do zoom in and out. What's nice is we also have this square down here. I'm sorry, it looks like my screen's a little cut off, but you hopefully can see it right here. But you're able to take this and you can rotate this square as well, or you can quick snap. So if you press top, it goes to the top. We can rotate it and do the right. We can rotate it, do the back. We can do the bottom. We can use this to do quick snapping, which is really nice. I find it useful when I'm trying to find out how things are looking from a top view, because this outer gray line of the bed plate is the printable area of the bed plate. So if something's hanging off the edge or completely off the edge, but I can't really see it from this angle, what I'll do is I'll click a top view or a bottom view even, so I can see the whole project and see what's hanging off and what's not hanging off. It's a really cool way to look at everything. But so that's how we control the bed plate. You can name bed plates. So if you want to do this, we'll call this a Dragon Dice Tower. This is very useful when you have projects that have multiple bed plates in a single bed project. When I went ahead and printed my DJI case with my logo and everything on it. This was all of the different individual parts were inside of a slicer, and they all had their own bed plates, but they were labeled. And it was nice because this was a preset from somebody else, and I had different materials, and it was nice because then I knew what materials could go where when I made this. So that's why you would want to maybe label your bed plates. That's just how you do it. And then here we have remove current plate if we don't want, if it's not the last one. So we can't remove this one because it's the last one. But if we come up here to this button, add a bed plate, and we're like, oh, we don't want that, click the X, deletes it. You can also find all of the same menus here in clicking the bed plate, but we're not going to worry about that. We have the auto orient for an object. So if we have an object that's laid in here incorrectly, we can click that. The program will say, okay, this is the best way to print this on this surface. We have auto arrange, so whether you have one object or multiple objects, you're able to click that and the whole plate will arrange itself with a bunch of different objects, and I'll show you what that looks like for the optimal way to print. You can lock it just so if you have multiple bed plates, you don't want to accidentally click anything, you can do that. We can have the customized current plate. I have never, ever touched this, so you know where we're at. And then you can move plate to the front, which means if you have a bunch of plates, this can be the first one. So those are all the basics of what this looks like. Now let's get an object in here. Actually, let's show you how to download objects. I'm going to talk about 2 websites. There are hundreds. There are Patreons that you should subscribe to, but these are where you're going to get all of your free files. In order to look, when you're getting these free files, make sure if you plan on selling files or you can almost never sell files, but if you're planning on selling printed objects, you need to pay attention to a few things. We'll talk about that here in a second. So the first website we're going to talk about, which I think is the very basic one, is called Thingiverse, Thingiverse.com. Thingiverse is a free website. There are going to be a lot of ads. There's going to be not a lot of ads, but there's going to be some ads. There's going to be some not safe for work stuff here. So be very careful. Parents out there, this is a great resource in order to find files, but I would suggest you taking control of the search engine over your child, just because there is some not safe for work stuff here. They even have these like toy guns, but it's just like, there's just stuff that if you have a younger child who does have internet access, but you want to make sure things are going, I would highly suggest monitoring that with them. But nonetheless, this is what this looks like, and it's awesome. Like, they're just really cool files. We're all here. So we're going to sit here and we're going to find something that we need to print. I need a new carabiner for my backpack. So we're going to type in carabiner. I also just realized I can't spell sometimes, but we're good. And we have so many options. There's some ones that have screw on it. There's some simple ones, and I'm going to look for the one that I feel like is the best for what I need. And honestly, I just need something simple like this. So first ad popped up. Again, this is just going to happen. So we're just going to press close. That ad, always just press close. Don't touch anything, just press close. So you're going to see here's the carabiner. We have the photos of the carabiner. We see how it works. It's awesome, super simple, super easy. What's nice is sometimes in the details, you can sit here and they can give you suggestions on how to do it. This one says that you might need a knife to separate the springs, arms. Sometimes they get fused to the clips. So that's good to know. It's good to know that that's what it looks like. And you can even look at this in a 3D space, and you can rotate it around and look at what it's going to look like. And you can see, yeah, probably, oh, that was too close. Probably about right here is where it gets fused, I'm assuming. But that's all right. So we're going to go back to 2D. We're going to press download all files, or just this button right here. Now we have this STL of the file. So there's 2 main formats that you need your files in. You need them in either STL or you need them in 3MF is a file that has all of the parameter and settings already preset within the file. So when you upload it, it automatically does that. And sometimes you don't have to change it. Sometimes you do. It's really good for objects like this that have multiple colors. That way it's easy to manipulate the colors rather than hand painting it yourself within the program. Again, that stuff we'll get into in the advanced class, but STL is the really good one. So what's really cool about Orca Slicer is you have 2 options to load this in. You can either come over here to the add object, and if you go to downloads, here's the S carabiner. It's right here. Gives me this really cool preview. So I press open. It says it's okay. So this is interesting. This is a good thing to know. It's too small, maybe in millimeters or inches. Do you want it to scale to millimeters? I always press yes. Should not have pressed yes. So let's do this. So you find out. And then you're going to press no. And there's the regular size carabiner. Okay, carabiner. Now, the person who wrote the file didn't have suggestions on what settings to do. So for me, here's my standard across the board when I'm testing anything or trying to see where it is. 3 walls minimum. Infill, I go down to 12. Again, I stick to gyroid. I look at this, I double check that the orientation is correct. Nothing happened after I clicked that. I can press this, it'll just rotate it. It's just saying you can print it in any of these directions. Doesn't really matter. And then we're good. We have everything done, and we just press slice plate. It says no layers were detected. We repair it. This retry. Interesting. So what's interesting is this is a bad file. And that's how you detect a bad file. I don't know why it's a bad file. Literally couldn't tell you. But it's not a good file. So you're going to delete that, and we're going to go find a new one. Oh, man. This is good. This is why we learn. So let's go to this one. Here's a carabiner. Now, I will tell you in Thingiverse, if you press download all files, this gives you not only the files, but it gives you a README, it gives you everything else. Stuff you don't really need. If you just want the file, just click here. Oh, or don't. Ignore me. So we're clicking all files. Now you have to wait for this countdown to be done. Then it pops up over here. It's a zip file. Open it to unzip it. Now this is the second way to upload your file. So what's really cool is, as you can see here, it has been loaded up here. Here's the carabiner. I go into files. Here's the STL. I can actually take the STL, drop it over, and it loads itself to the slicer, which is awesome. All these settings are the same. We haven't changed any of them. Press slice plate. I bet you, well, let's show you. Great. So now it's sliced. You can see that it's changed colors because it's in a certain line type. You can't just press filament. It shows it in the same color, but I like line type, and I'll show you why. So this print will take 18 minutes and 13 seconds. There's a little bit of a give and take there. Your printer's got to warm up, do some other things. So it might be closer to 20 to 25 minutes, but that's fine. It's going to take 8.1 grams of filament to make. Cost is 0.16 cents. That is based on the cost that I've put in there. That's a part of the advanced class we'll talk about. But this is your print. Now we have 2 sliders here. We have a slider over here and a slider. Oh, you can't see this one. There's a slider. Hold on. Let me move my screen up. Can I do that? I really want you guys to see this. Okay, so we have a slider. Oh my gosh, of course it's not. Okay, cool. So we have a slider down here and a slider on the side. Now, what's nice, let me move myself out of the way here. Put me over here. Okay, with this line type right here, or this slider and this slider, this is the nozzle, virtual nozzle, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. And this is each layer. So this is going to be 40 layers at 0.2 millimeters. And if we click this and then use our mouse pad or our keypad to go down, we can see that this is what's happening. And this is the different stuff. So this is what we're talking about. These are the lines for the wall. So there's 1, 2, 3, like we said. This is the gyroid infill, and it's being done at 12%. It is filling this 12% of the way with infill. And this is what the gyroid infill looks like. And if we click this again and then just come down, we can hold the key down, and we're seeing this each layer at a time. So this is the first layer, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, all the way up to 40. Now, the other slider is really cool. So let's pull this down to 36. And then if we click this other slider and we go left and right, as like I said, this is a virtual nozzle of your machine. So if we click this, we can show you, if we backtrack, this is the travel of the actual machine. This is just fun to know. There's not really a whole lot of reason to watch it unless you're having a project that's failing and you want to see internally what's happening. You could figure it out from here. I just do it sometimes when I want to be distracted and my ADD kicks in real hard. So those are what those 2 sliders are for. So we come over here. Just die. Okay. So I don't know what's going on. Anyways, doesn't matter. So we have this ready to go. So we go over here to export G-code file, and you're going to want to select your USB drive. You should have put your USB drive in the computer, and I should have mentioned that in the way beginning of this. So sorry that I didn't. But you're going to put your USB drive in, and you're going to find your USB drive. Now, I don't have one plugged in here, but we're going to pretend that this one named Bensky Builds Plates is my USB drive. You're going to name this whatever you want, so you can keep it this way or just type it carabiner. and then you press save. Now that will save it into your USB drive. And then you come down here. If you look right here, there's an eject button. You would click that so you can safely eject your file. And then you get to go over, put that USB drive into your printer and get started. We will get into how that looks in the next video. But like I said, there's one more website that I want to show you that I use to get my files, and that is MakerWorld. MakerWorld is Bamboo Studio's proprietary to get files, but they're all free, which is really great. And it's not 100% proprietary. Like, you don't have to worry about not having a Bamboo because you can just use it normally. So if we have this little robot hand, right, we want to print this little guy. This is really cool. Grab your chips with it. There is a drop down here where you can open it in Bamboo Studios automatically. You can download the 3MF. Again, that's where all the presets are already done. And that's what these different things are. This one's a strength version, so it's at a 0.28 layer height, 3 walls, 15% infill, or the STL CAD files, and you download those. It shows you a little preview. You press download, and it's the same thing we just did before. So if we were to go back into Orca Slicer and do that, we come in here, we go to prepare, we can delete this, and we can add the object that we just downloaded, which is a little robot hand right here. And there it is. It's ready to go. Now, what's cool about MakerWorld is almost all, I think all of them have printer profiles. So if we come in here, the standard one is 2 layer height, 2 walls, 15% infill. So I can come back into Orca and I can just go ahead and change this to 2. And I'll change this up to 15. Now, if you've noticed, it doesn't say what type of infill to use because that's dealer's choice. Again, just stay away from these 4. I would suggest sticking with these 3. And then we slice it, and this little guy will take 34 minutes and 52 seconds, which I will say save 40 with warm-up time. And this would be ready to go. This is a print-in-place model, which means that even though it's mechanical, you don't have to do anything other than print this model, and then you can start using it right away. So that's really cool. So there you guys have it. That is the slicing software that I like to use, Orca Slicer. But again, all of those principles are going to apply to the other slicers across the board. Please look into it. Don't just use my stuff as the absolute best thing in the whole world. I know there's things I missed, but I'm just trying to help get people started, especially because the holidays just happened and people could have gotten 3D printers for gifts. So I really want to make sure that everybody is prepared as possible. I'm going to start pumping these videos out a lot. I appreciate you guys sticking until the end of the video. Please give this a like, give me a subscribe. Again, if you want more of these, hit that bell icon, but also we're going to be doing other 3D printing stuff. We're going to be doing travel stuff. So I'm basically Bensky. Mistakes make magic, baby.